Hello and welcome back to Entirely English. In our last video with our naval idioms, or idioms that are commonly used that originated in the Navy, we were looking at the letter R. And there were too many to put into one recording because it takes so long for me to upload them. Sorry, bad internet. So this is part 2. Naval idioms, beginning with R, part 2. And our first one is the idiom to run a tight ship. To run a tight ship. Now, literally, this means a good captain, or a good first mate, good bosun, the good person in charge. He runs a tight ship. To run something is to manage it. You run a business. You run a company. To run a tight ship meant to have very good control. In fact, there's a couple of arguments about it. One is to run a tight ship where the captain is very strict. Everybody had to obey the orders. They had to be in their positions. They had to be at their posts on time. They had to do what was expected of them. Now, the crew obviously would not like this. It's too tough. But come a storm or a battle, they would seriously appreciate having a tight ship, because the captain of a loose ship would very easily be sunk. Tight ship, everybody bang, 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 get the process done. Some people say this is related to the rigging. We talked in the previous one about ropes. The rigging is the sort of cargo nets that they climbed up and all the stuff that control the sails. So that had to be tight, had to be in place and secure. So when you ran a tight ship, all those things were done correctly. And there's another argument that says it relates to the boards. You remember we've talked about the Devil before, and the keel and the hull. Well, they're made of planks. And they butt together, they overlap. And those joints have to be tight. Otherwise, water will get in and the ship will sink. So when you run a tight ship, you are managing a ship where those boards are tight. Either they're using very strong timber like mahogany, or they're using a lot of the caulk. And that's the stuff we talked about when they had to pay the Devil. It's the sealant which they put between the board to keep it waterproof. In fact, tight, as in watertight. So either way, any of the three definitions you look at, the running the tight ship is to manage it, to have a ship which runs perfectly, like clockwork. And we use it in the same way today, obviously not just on ships, but in business or in your home. Say, my wife runs a tight ship. The laundry is always done on Wednesday. The kids are always off to school on time. And she lets me go to the pub on Fridays. Or the boss runs a tight ship. You know, everybody's at their desk at the right time, doing their jobs. No excuses. Okay, next is an idiom which you've heard me use before. A rule of thumb. Now this one is not directly related to the Navy, but it was used in the Navy. It is actually a carpenter's term or a joiner's term. So people who worked with wood, sometimes you didn't have a ruler. You couldn't get your tape measure or something out and measure something exactly. For example, you stopped at an island and you went to get some timber, chop down some trees, and you needed pieces which were 1 foot long, it's 30 centimeters. You didn't have your tape measure. So what you'd do was you'd use your thumb and you'd measure 12 thumbs. It's approximately 1 inch. 12 inches is a foot, 30 centimeters. And you'd cut in that area. Right, so you used your thumb like a ruler to get an approximate size. Then you take the piece of wood back to where you needed it, cut it to the exact size, and shave it and blah, 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 blah. Right. So a rule of thumb is something that is not exact, but close enough. When we talk about English grammar, we say a rule of thumb for like words that begin with P. As a rule of thumb, The prefix you put on them for the negative is im. Impossible, impolite, improper. But it's not always true. It's not true 100% of the time. So you can say unpopular. So im is not always true, but as a rule of thumb, if you're in doubt, im is a good prefix. Obviously, as an aside, the easiest thing to do is just say not polite, not proper. But anyway, as a rule of thumb, maybe it's true 80 or 90% of the time. So that comes from carpenters. And as I say, every ship, particularly those on long voyages, would have a qualified or very experienced carpenter on board. Ships are made of wood. Very important person. Okay, our next is to be raked from stem to stern. Now, to rake something is to, well, in the garden it's to use that prong thing to like collect leaves. But when you rake over something, it's you go over it from one end to the other. Stem to stern is like the bow to the stern, is the front to the back of the ship. And in a battle, one thing you'd want to do is you'd sail past another ship and you go and you shoot it from front to back, rake it from side to side, raked with cannon fire. So when the ship is raked from stem to stern, you've almost destroyed it and it's going to sink in your ideal world. So when we say raked from stem to stern, nowadays it means we were maybe shouted at or punished in a very, very severe way. Normally like being shouted at, berated. Because I lost 20 million euros on that deal, the manager raked me from stem to stern. So he screamed at me, yelled at me. But our last one, which I'm going to connect to that, is rats leaving a sinking ship. Now, for whatever reason, every ship had rats on it. You think about the construction of the ship, it's hard to find every nook, every cranny, every hole. You've got the bottom part of the ship, which often had what's called ballast, like rocks or iron or anything, in the bottom of the ship to stop it rocking, to stop that boat being rocked, to keep it upright. And that's an area where rats would live. And they'd come out and they'd eat the food, or eat the stores. When a ship was sinking, the first to leave it, and we talk about women and children first, but actually the first things to leave a sinking ship are the rats. They know instinctively when death is coming, and they will jump into the sea and swim. Oftentimes they'll paddle around in circles waiting for a bit of driftwood, a bit of broken ship to get onto. So if your ship was raked by cannon fire, the rats would be out of there. As soon as the ship starts sinking, they are gone. And we use this phrase today to talk about anybody who deserts some situation as soon as it appears to get bad. As soon as he was accused of that crime, all of his friends, like rats deserting a sinking ship, stopped talking to him. So a situation where those things which you rely on, which are normally around, go. They betray you. Rats leaving a sinking ship. Okay, so that's the end of ours, finally. Part 2 is over. S is going to be 2 videos, I think. Yeah, I think I'll keep it down to 2 rather than going into 3, but there are lots of S and there's lots of T. So I'll put the most important ones in the video and the extra ones in the description below. Okay, so I hope you found that interesting. You are learning the ropes about idioms in English and how to use them. And I hope that I'm showing you these ropes effectively. If you've enjoyed this, if you found it interesting, please remember to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you for the next idiom section. Bye-bye now.